Yo, what's poppin'? All my peeps. It is I, your host with the most renaissance man who always thinks he can, and champion of the peeps, Patty Pitts, back from the South Carolina, that is, for another Raw Rewind. And I'm joined, as always, by the best of the West. You can't forget about Sara Marshall. Sara, what's poppin', girl?
Hey, yo.
Hey, I remember Sora being like, so that's where the hey yo is from.
Oh my God. That was so funny. It's so funny to like see his mind break on certain wrestling things.
Mhm.
And when he gets into that, like learn stuff, and he's like, oh wait, that's like they do that at NFL games or the baseball games. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
that started in
Yeah.
wrestling.
Mhm.
And it's so funny when that happens. I think he's coming over back because Backlash is this Saturday.
Yep.
I won't go too far in advance, but I think he's coming over for that. I got to confirm with him. I'm going to be actually recording with him. If you follow me on Twitter at Pat_Pitts, tweet out today my recording schedule. We have a busy day. And Sora
I know.
and
I'm doing a podcast tomorrow, so I'm
what?
busy. A Patriots podcast, but
Yeah.
But someone from a Facebook group that I post in was like, Sara, check your messages, and she was like, would you like to be on my podcast?
That's
And
so nice.
I'm doing that tomorrow. So that'll be cool because I haven't done one of those in a while. So
it'll be good. At least you got some practice with this.
yes, it's always weird though because I don't talk about Patriots as much on video, and I need to get better about that. But yeah, so it's like kind of a breath of fresh air sometimes because that's how I started.
Yeah, that's how I started too.
Yeah,
fantasy stuff. Jeez, that feels like ages ago. But what doesn't feel like ages ago is the draft. And no, not the NFL. The WWE one culminated. Yeah, because it ended. Friday is just another version of SmackDown. Whatever happens, happens into Backlash. And then right after Backlash is when the rosters are finalized. That's what I'm.
Yes, it's raw on May 8th. So that's Monday.
So
that's when everything goes into effect.
That is when. So good. Okay, so we have a lot to say about this.
A lot about the draft.
And I feel like this is one of those Raw episodes where there was one story that just flowed through the entire time. Like that's why you watch Raw for this, and whatever was, in the midst or a match or something was just part of that draft or part of that big story. And I loved how they did the draft this year. I'm a big fan, and I have a little theory, but I won't go into it right now because I want to hear what you thought of.
Yeah, I don't think I loved it, but I didn't hate it because I like that it was very direct, that there wasn't a whole lot of games, or like extra added to it. It was just like, okay, like they were very much trying to make it seem like the NFL draft. So I thought I liked that aspect of it because yeah, I don't like when they would do the GM thing and then they would be like bantering and whatever, and it's just too much. But I mean, it wasn't like exciting or like over the top or anything, so that's why I'm saying it was fine. Like and I liked how many of the guest people that they had to like introduce them. I thought that was pretty cool.
It's some heavy hitters.
Yeah.
RVD, my guy. That would shock me. I did not think I would see him in a WWE setting for another like 5 years.
Oh, because did you watch SmackDown? Because he was on SmackDown.
I was.
Okay, so he, of course, everyone. I thought it was just a one-off. Like I thought that all the people that were introducing picks on SmackDown, like it was just gonna be SmackDown, or maybe Triple H was gonna do it on Raw. I didn't think they bring them over, especially because RVD, one of the picks that he announced was Matt Riddle. So I thought that it was like, it was a one-off thing where they were like, oh, this would be too perfect. Like we have to use the other original bro,
Yeah.
But I did, speaking of RVD, I had two thoughts just because random, but two thoughts. One, has anyone had a better name in WWE? Like with this, like it's like the most perfect thing ever. Like I think it's just because he's been gone for a few years now, so you like kind of forget. But it's like nobody has a name like it's like LA Knight, you know, like it's like the
Yeah,
same thing. Just reminded me. And two, I thought it was really cute how he was like so flattered about people were cheering for him so loud. Like no one cared about Bischoff. And they were just like so into RVD, and he was just like, I love you guys too. And it was like, oh,
this
little
guy, this RVD has one of the best names for his character and
yeah.
his like style. Where like he's so different. He was so different, much different than everyone else. That's where I wanted to see Riddle going away with that. But that's, I mean, oh,
They're just different wrestlers, though. Like,
completely different.
okay, hold on 1 second. My cat. Just stop it. Stop it.
All right. Well, you can't even hear me, can you?
I can hear you, but she's all wrapped up in wires. So, like, this is
Tangled up
why
in
does she do this to me? Here she is.
this question. I've been thinking. I gotta ask. What is your favorite draft? Quick. Don't go. Let's not go like crazy into it. But like favorite
What-
draft of all time,
I don't
or what
have
you think is the best one?
of WWE.
WWE.
I don't have a favorite. I that's not on my radar. Like that's not
What do you
something
think
that
is
I'm
the
like, oh,
best
I'm gonna
one?
pick my favorite. My favorite one is the 2010. Like I don't have
No,
one like that.
like what do you think was the best draft? Like someone says, like, what was the best WWE draft ever? Which one?
I
What
don't.
would you draft?
I honestly I couldn't tell you.
I'd go 05.
Okay.
Well, that's when Cena Batista switch first time like shit happened. I really
I
hated
don't
that
go
year.
drafts like that are not like ingrained in my brain. Like
I
it's just
love
not something,
Oh, it was awesome.
you know. But you also sit there and just watch random WWE programming all
I
day long.
do.
So
Yeah,
that's what I mean. Like a lot not that you wouldn't necessarily know these things off the top of your head if you didn't, but I think that that helps keep your brain like
very fair.
active, like so you yeah, so it's fresh in your memory, whereas me like there's certain things that I remember, but a draft doesn't stand out to me really at all.
I watched the old clips and whatnot because there was one thing that I learned, and this is where we're going like deep cut pits here. Where when I worked at my dad's restaurant, there was one cook who was just as obsessed as me with wrestling,
Yeah, I remember you saying that. Yeah.
and we would talk constantly. And he said the same thing, and it's ingrained in my mind. Wrestling repeats itself.
Mhm.
My history teacher said the same thing about history, but we'll
Well,
stick with this.
that's true too.
That's true. But wrestling repeats itself. And so you learn a lot and you can really kind of open your mind to what's going to happen next, or, you're letting different things play out a little bit longer before you really give an opinion because
Mhm.
you watch like the past and you're like, all right, this happened there. That was terrible. You'll never see that again. And then if you do, you see the changes they made to make it better.
Yeah.
And this goes into kind of my theory with the draft. Keep turning it back on track to the current. Do you think that any of these guest announcers or guest pick makers would have more of a role in the let's go in the show, not the company, but within the shows leading up to SummerSlam, or for a decent amount of time, and maybe we see more of like Molly Holly as a GM or an authority figure?
Um, I don't I kind of feel no, because so I read this briefly and I don't remember if it was, so I don't remember who it was. Like I read it I think very early this morning, so I can't remember who it was, but they had an interesting thought process, I guess, on the draft where they were saying that this was kind of the beginning, the like almost the real beginning of the Triple H era, because he was very much involved in the deciding of who goes where, and like the storylines that were going to come from this and who was going to be feuding. So it was like he was more in control of this. And so if that's true, which I mean I don't see why it wouldn't be,
Oh, yeah, it's like, yeah.
yeah, um to me, having something like a GM or an authority figure, that doesn't seem like a Triple H thing. I think I would just have to see how it would come about, because I kind of like when we have these one-off things with the Hall of Famers and the legends and whatever, because it's kind of nice. I think that it makes you appreciate them more than when it's like it's overkill. Because if we have to think, like, right now we're probably already getting Trish and potentially Lita leading up to SummerSlam.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
need
like,
it. Yeah.
and it's so adding even more to it, I feel like it just doesn't make it feel as special, you know?
Good point.
And I would be one of those people too that if they brought back anybody to be like a GM or something, I'm like, I want Bischoff. I want like Teddy Long or something. You know what I mean? Like more specific. Teddy Long for the jokes. Eric Bischoff for like heel Bischoff, because like,
There's no one better than Heel
you
Bischoff.
know, so that's the type of thing I would go for, but I just don't know if we're like in that element anymore, you know?
True. Yeah.
Um
Yeah, good point. I didn't think of it like that.
So, what did you think about the NXT call-ups? So, just to refresh everyone's memory, because we do have a question that I want to get to. I'm just not. I want to get in, do it in order. So, the NXT call-ups were Alba and Isla, Apollo Crews, Cameron Grimes, Grayson Waller, JD McDonough, Katana Chance, and Caden Carter, Indus Shear. So that's three of them. Odyssey Jones, Pretty Zedley, Andy Hartwell, and Zoe Stark. So, yeah.
Yes, boy!
Yes, boy!
Yes, boy!
Yes, boy!
Yes, boy!
Yes, boy!
But that was appropriate.
Yes, boy.
I felt it was pretty appropriate.
I was the only so as far as who was called up, I think most of them make sense. Some of them I didn't even know who they were, if I'm being honest, but whatever. But I'm very excited with the ones that they did bring up, because I really did want to see Katana Chance and Caden Carter on the main roster. I'm very, very excited that Pretty Deadly is brought up. I just think that they should have been put on Raw. But yeah, I think that Grayson Waller to SmackDown, I think that was a great move. And I was kind of surprised that they did that off air. I feel like that is one that they should have had announced during Raw, because they didn't announce really any NXT call-ups compared to SmackDown. They were loaded on SmackDown with the NXT.
I found that was weird that they didn't announce more call-ups. Like, I feel like the Odyssey Jones and a few others
yeah,
off camera or on Raw Talk makes sense, but like Grayson Waller top 3, when I say superstar in NXT.
Yeah, so that one kind of surprised me, because I wasn't paying attention, because last week with at the end of SmackDown they said they were going to do it the next day, like the next morning. So I was like, okay, so I was expecting the same thing with Raw. Especially because it's a 3-hour show and it ends later in SmackDown. So I wasn't paying attention. And then all of a sudden I see on Twitter like something about Grayson Waller's to SmackDown. I was like, wait, what? I'm like, did I miss something? Like, did I fall asleep during Raw? What happened? And then I saw that they did all these other ones. So I think the most surprising one for me was no Braun Breaker. That one shocked me a little bit.
I'm so happy.
I mean, I'm not mad, but I was just kind of shocked, because he seemed like the biggest candidate for a call up after Raw after Mania. Like, it seemed the most obvious that it was going to be him. So I was kind of surprised that now that we're doing the draft, that he wasn't one of them. Like, I was thinking, okay, Grayson Waller's called up. Okay, what about Braun Breaker? No, all these other random people. And I'm like, okay, like, I thought that was a little surprising. So it kind of just makes you wonder why.
They want a trilogy with him and Mello.
And that makes sense. But then at the same time, like, I believe that they said that they're going to allow the NXT people to finish whatever feuds and storylines that they're working on right now before they get called up. So like, you can be drafted, but you don't have to like show up yet. Cause I think Indy's hurt. So she's probably not going to be like on Raw next week.
She's the NXT Women's Champion.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, I mean, and the same thing with Alba and Isla, like they're the women's tag champs. So like, they're not going to be, I mean, I can't imagine that they're going to have them defend the women's NXT tag championships on SmackDown. Like, that seems, it doesn't make any sense though, because then you'd be taking them out of NXT. So that's what I mean. Like, that wouldn't
Yeah,
make
but yeah, I
um
do agree with that. But all right, let's get some questions here because Richard's asked 3. David, yo, what's good?
I know I was gonna get to his second question because it's NXT related.
Yeah, let's start with that.
Okay.
All right, let's start with that one. Do you think Cora Roxanne should have been called up? Also, do you think Ilya or Tyler? Oh, see, a lot of people were saying Dragunov to SmackDown, and I
Yeah,
was
but
so for it if it
I
was going to have Gunther there.
because I think this is the thing. But when you actually count how many people were brought up, it was like 18 or something. 18 people from NXT were called up. That's a lot. And the thing is they're not even, a lot of them were big players too. Like Pretty Deadly, huge. Zoe Stark, huge. Katana and Kaden, huge. Like those are major absences from NXT. So I think some of them it was like, okay, who do we think is the most ready, or who are we the most okay with losing right now? And I think with some people like Ilya, it's like, no, we can't lose him right
You
now.
can't lose Ilya Dragunov right now.
I'm
That's a
very
good point.
surprised. This Roxanne is another one that I'm surprised about because she's already worked a SmackDown and whatever. Cora, I was surprised about as well because I believe she was backstage at SmackDown and Raw last week. So
they were very happy with her performance on Main Event.
yeah, so I think that was, people were thinking, oh, maybe she was backstage because she was going to be called up. I don't know that she's ready to be called up yet. I think that they probably need to make her like NXT Women's Champion or something. They need to give her like a really good run before she comes up to Raw or SmackDown. And like they brought up quite a few women from NXT. So you don't want to like overload either show with girls that need time to like, adapt to being on the main roster because then that becomes oversaturated. It's too much.
My point with the Roxanne and Cora is that Roxanne Perez should be NXT Women's Champion. Whatever happened to give Indy that push, I don't know. We'll find out years later. But it feels like we didn't get enough of Roxanne as champion.
Yeah.
And especially with her and Cora's, whole backstory history together. And Cora now is doing this is my NXT. She called out every woman, backstage. So that's like, all right, you're not getting drafted, but you're about to be a main player.
Yeah.
And she has it, and not because she's dating Braun, and I feel like a lot of people are going to say that. Champ doesn't.
It's
Champ
so
sees
weird.
it. People suck. People suck.
Yeah. Well, because I think people realize that doesn't make you more talented.
Oh, it doesn't. It just
like
makes
you
more there.
like. Should we bring up my favorite example? Nikki Bella. I'm sorry, Bella Twins. Did they get pushes? Did they? Oh my god, they got pushes because of who they were with. Of course they did, but that didn't make Nikki better. You know what I mean? Just because she was with Cena.
Raw and in their wardrobe. I am really excited to watch like Cora Jade and Roxanne just run NXT's women's division as like the top dogs and just have battles with each other. And then the next crop that comes in, and there's potential there for a little bit of the black and gold feel. I'm gonna emphasize the word feel or essence, as my friend Matt Hardy says, of that black and gold era where you were watching NXT, but it did not feel like the AAA version of it. And when I try to tell that to the non-wrestling peeps, and I say that it's kind of the minor leagues. It's not, because you have people who've been there for years. Like, look at Gallus. Gallus is sick. They've been there doing it for years. And I don't know. I love the way they're going with it. Ilya Dragunov. Tyler Bate. We haven't seen enough of Tyler Bate.
Yeah, I think again, it's just like they had to pick and choose, who was going up and who, because you also, like I said, you don't want to get rid of all your main people because other people are going to take time to replace them. So it's not like, okay, maybe you want Cora to be like the next, like the top girl. Okay, but you can't then get rid of every top girl and then automatically she is it. No, like it doesn't happen overnight. So
yeah. It's there. Her and Roxanne will be the top heels and faces.
Oh
Very
yeah, yeah. So, what about the draft were you most excited about?
SmackDown becoming the A show. Okay, SmackDown may be the most loaded roster I've seen that show have in quite some time. And finally, because it's the 2 hours, you can do a lot. They do a lot in that time with the new Triple H or what we've seen is that you really have to be all eyes on screen for the entire 2 hours,
Mm,
which is, you don't see that now. In the talent that they have, like, there's so many different avenues you can go down for feuds, alliances. The star power is at its peak. It's up there with
yeah.
Raw. You have
Their
awesome,
women the SmackDown women's division is insane. That I
insane in
noticed.
the membrane.
If people aren't aware, it's this is just insane. So Alba Fire and Isla Dawn are there. Asuka, which we found out last night, Bailey, Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair. I mean, that's just the top people. Then you have Katana Chance, Kaden Carter, B Fab, Dakota Kai, Io Sky, Lacey Evans, Mia Yim, Shotzi, Tamina, Zelina. Like, that's insane. So I am excited about that because we finally get to see Charlotte and Bianca because that is one that we have not seen yet. So I am excited about that as long as Charlotte does not become champion. Um I'm excited for Asuka too. That's a whole new crop of people for her. Um and I'm excited for the women's tag division. Um with Katana and Kaden, we Alba and Isla. I'm just excited. I mean, the Raw or the women's champions Liv and Raquel they were drafted to Raw. So I am kind of curious what that's going to mean. Are they going to be able to go from show to show because they are the women's champions? So I don't or I'm sorry, the tag team champions. So I don't know that they can just be like, "Oh, they're Raw exclusive." Like, no, cuz then nobody wants like a second pair of women's tag titles for SmackDown because we're not even you're not even making it good enough for one. So I am curious about like that decision because I didn't say anything about that, but
So what
um
I am gathering from this is I feel like WWE is doing their own version of what other companies like Impact, AEW do with the other promotions around the world, where you have guys like Kenny Omega, um, Christian Cage. They were champions of Impact, or even New Japan with Kenny Omega in the U.S. title, and they're AEW contracted superstars.
mhm.
And that's something that is not only just them, but like the indies. I mean, when we have BRG on, he's in so many different promotions. He's a champion of like two of them. All you
Yeah.
do is just go to that. So it just kind of attaches you to that promotion in a way,
Mm.
which, bringing it back to WWE, it's attaching you to that show. And it's more of, Kevin Owens isn't on NXT. He's the champion. Like, I'm just giving an example. Like,
Yeah.
he's the for the undisputed titles, because I saw that was a hot button right now on Twitter. Was they were saying, "Oh, cool, they're putting the undisputed titles on one show, and we're not going to have two tag champions." We are. They're going to be the tag team for both shows, and they're going to travel because that's how deep the roster is right now. That when you have guys that they're just so over and they've done it, they're at that veteran status, like they're going to pull two shows because they can do it. They've been doing it other promotions for years. So that's all it is that the titles are attached to the show, and it just attaches you there too. Gives you for better few again. You can like now you have matches of like, I mean, for the NXT Women's Championship, we could have Ronda and Shayna out of nowhere coming down at NXT, or Alba Fight. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
so
Yeah.
I don't know. There's many ways you can go with it. I'm rambling now.
Um what did I was just going to say too. There was something else that I noticed and now I don't remember.
Um,
Ah, man, I hate when that happens. I had a good thought.
you have a pen.
Um
You know what? As I say, if you
oh,
have a pen to write it down, I have
I know.
no pen inside.
I did want to say too, this is random, but we found out that the ring announcers were also traded. So Samantha is going to Raw, Mike Rome is going to SmackDown. So I am very happy about that. Just basically to hear her announce Imperium.
Yeah, to me,
I
it's
just
more
wanted
of
to hear
a
her with Imperium. That's all I wanted.
yeah, like that's kind of what I get the sense of is that obviously you can do the logistics side of the her fiance Ricochet is now on Raw,
Well,
but
and they kept like all the couples together,
and make
basically.
it like yeah because they're a company, they get it.
Yeah.
But Sam Irvin needs to be highlighted in history as like one of the best all time. I mean,
Basically,
the
she's
emotion.
she's coming for Lillian Garcia, if we're being honest. Like, I'm not saying she's there yet, but
Couple
like as
years,
far as women
couple
go,
years.
it's been very difficult
See
for
it.
them to replace Lillian, and it's been hard to listen to a lot of the women that they've tried to, that they kind of tested out over the years. Because when you grew up in that era of listening to Lillian for so long, you get used to the way that she introduced people, or like Tony Chimmel, like you get used to that.
Woo, superstar.
I think Mike Rome has done a really good job. He actually sounds a lot like Justin Roberts to me, which is another one that you kind of like like you got used to in WWE.
I've had that moment where I think Justin Roberts got rehired.
I know, so
Like,
have I. And then I'm like, no,
oh my girl.
he's not there. But yeah, so Samantha, I'm really excited. I think that it's cool that she'll be on Raw. She's amazing, and it's like they just found her. I don't know. I don't even know why they hired her to begin with, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way
No,
because
you
she's
just
like
yeah,
a
there's
singer. Like she's a great singer. So it's just I'm like, oh, did they just think because you can sing well that you must be able to announce well? Like I don't really know, but I thought that was cool. I do remember now. So Madcap Moss is Madcap Moss no longer. He is back to Riddick Moss. Also, I meant to tell you this like last week, but I think it happened when you were gone. He was being listed internally as Riddick Moss. So good for him
is his first
because
name Riddick?
yeah, Riddick. You don't remember when he was Riddick Moss?
No.
Oh, all right. Well, he did. So he's back to that, which I think it's about time because the Madcap thing it's been over like a year now that was dead. So I'm happy about that. And then what did you think what did you think were the biggest mistakes? Was there anyone that you felt like should have been called up? Do you think anyone should have like went to the wrong show? What do you think?
As much as I am a huge LA Knight to SmackDown fan, his aura right now screams Raw. It just screams Raw. There's a lot of personality anyways on SmackDown. Not hating on it, but whatever. But I feel like he would have been a better hit on Raw, especially to build up this new title.
Mm-hmm.
You may not have him win it yet for a year or two, but he could hang with a guy like Seth Rollins. You could hang with a guy like Bobby Lashley for at least 10.
Lashley's on SmackDown, I believe.
Well, then there you go. So if he's on SmackDown, they could have a nice feud.
Is he on SmackDown?
I
I
don't
think
know.
he's listed here on SmackDown, so he might be.
I don't have it in front of me.
But I agree. That's my biggest complaint is that I was really bummed when they announced LA Knight was staying on SmackDown. Because I mean I've been saying it for weeks that he needed to go to Raw. I really wanted to see him versus Seth. I feel like that would have been a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
But I guess and the thing is like when I look at the roster for SmackDown, most of the people I'd want to see him go against are also considered heels. So I'm struggling because like him versus AJ Styles, money. Him versus Austin Theory, money.
What are you
Him
talking about?
versus Grayson Waller, money. You know what I mean? Like, but
I was right.
I'm just
Yeah.
curious if they would even do that. You know what I mean? Because we're supposed to believe that he's a bad guy right now, but it's like,
You can't.
I mean,
Like loving Loki.
him
Loki's a
versus
bad guy, but everyone
Sheamus.
loves
I
Loki.
don't know. I don't know.
I just want to say for the record, if anyone did watch our stream where we drafted our own shows, how money I was on the OC. Talk
Okay,
about
well,
having a gut feeling.
I was right about like all of my call ups. So my NXT call ups. So if you're gonna
What's
take a
going on,
second to
man?
brag, then so am I. Because I also called Grayson Waller to SmackDown.
You
So
did. I will give you that. That's a little bit more impressive.
and my other ones were correct. I just put them on the wrong show. Like I called Kaden and Katana. I called Pretty Deadly. I just put them on Raw accidentally. So I want to get to this. We have a
We have
bunch
a
of
lot of
questions.
comments, guys.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you. Let's try to answer these.
yeah, Richard says, do y'all think the women's champions get new titles or title swap? I was gonna ask this question, so that's why I wanted to talk about it. Is what I would love to see is not a swap, which we talked about before this, because and we didn't even know if that was what the case was going to be at the time when we talked about it last week. But now that we know that that is the case, I don't want to see a swap. What I would love is for them to almost redesign the women's or change out the colors so it doesn't represent brands, very similar to like how they have the WWE championship and like the world heavyweight or the WWE and Universal. Like the Universal looked, I mean, obviously it became blue, but it used to be a red. But I would love for it to for the women's titles to not have a show association so that we don't run into this problem. Because I understand the whole point of it, but switching titles is stupid. But then also Rhea on Raw being SmackDown Women's Champion sounds stupid too, because then she's on Raw, so it doesn't make any sense. So I think that they should try to figure something out where it's like they're not just the women's like the Raw Women's Champion. It's like they're the women's champion and they're something else, because like the men are gonna have the WWE Championship and the World Heavyweight. So like the women should have something like that.
Yeah, you can't say featherweight because that's
No, and I didn't mean that. I just meant
no.
like
I'm trying to think of like comparisons like off the top of my head.
I
Like
know, I
what?
don't know. But I mean, they could just say they're the women's champion. I mean, like we know what show they're associated with, but because I mean, they didn't think about this before they had them switch brands. So, I mean, now they're the ones that are stuck in this predicament. I'm glad that we don't have to try and figure it out.
What if they become the Universal?
I mean, maybe.
Richard, my theory about what? Oh,
go ahead.
do you want to hear my theory about what I think they should do for the women's?
Okay.
I'll make it quick.
Okay.
Io or Bianca wins. I hope Io. But because they're both on SmackDown now, you then have Rhea come out at Judgment Day or with Judgment Day, whatever, and just knock them both out. Like just absolute rampage. And she just throws the title in the ring, grabs the other one, and just walks out.
I mean, I guess
You
that
should
could be.
use that. I mean, that's awesome. Then it answers everything, and you don't have to do a damn thing. You just have Rhea go over, you send Bianca down.
Yeah,
a little
but then
bit
I don't know. I guess then you would have to be like, well, what? I don't know. I don't know. It's too confusing that I don't even want to try and figure it out, if we're being honest.
Okay, what are the other ones? We have some.
Richard said that he thinks the Creeds should have been drafted, and I saw a lot of people were saying that as well. And I think their time will come. I think that they just really need to figure out the tag team situation, because the fact that they have unified tag titles creates a lot of issues. And so I think it's almost better that they weren't called up for that, because they are a legitimate tag team. But again, I feel like there's a situation where we're going to see them split and they're going to push Julian. I think he's the fitter one of the brothers. And I think they're going to want to push him as a solo guy, which, I mean, great for him. But at the same time, we don't have to keep splitting up tag teams. Like, we don't have to keep doing that. Jared says he thinks this is a record number of call-ups. I think so, too.
It has to be. 18 is a shit.
Yeah. He also said, to be honest, with the ever changes, it's hard to get excited about anything, just to wait and see. It's like, that's just what we're at. He also asks you, Pat, why was Braun Breaker and Natasha Lyons and Donovan, how do you say his last name?
Oh, Dijak
kept in NXT? He's asking you specifically.
You need big people, and by big people, not only the physical element of them, but the star power of them. Like, they are just monsters. And if you have them go up to the main roster, it's really tough to build monsters.
Oh, and he meant Nikita. He meant Nikita.
I know. Yeah, I'm picturing the right girl.
It just clicked. So,
Yeah, I honestly read it. Whatever. But you need bigger people. Like that's the element of wrestling. Like one needs to groom the other. Like it's everything kind of falls in line, and they all need to kind of be built up the same way, just with different people and different stories. And with Dijak, I feel like we haven't like he should be an NXT champion. Braun, I kind of want to see him go on a little bit of a rampage because he was the fun-loving Steiner,
and now
where
he's the
now
heel.
he's going to be more great example. He was more like Rick when he was a face, where he's the fun-loving bulldog, arf, arf, arf. And then now you're going to see him as a heel, and we're going to see like crazy Scott Steiner, but like calculated, smart, can put a cohesive sentence together. Because the whole black, like you need to have that element to him. That's how you really build a superstar to then get to that main roster and thrive in the main roster.
So rapid fire. Do we think Rhea will be separated from the Judgment Day? No. Do you think the LWO will be given a push? Yes.
Oh my God, they're getting the biggest push ever.
They're the highest selling merchandise sales right now, which is saying a lot considering Cody has been killing it. So I'm assuming that they're right around. I mean, they might have overtaken Cody at this point.
To have the LWO be unveiled and then have merchandise go off, I don't know, a couple weeks before Cinco de Mayo.
And their Puerto Rico show.
And the Puerto Rico pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Whoever works for the WWE marketing team, that they get it. They just
and then Damian Priest just got a new T-shirt today as well, and it's very much surrounded with like Puerto Rican colors and the flag and stuff like that. So they are working overtime because they're gonna sell a ton of merch.
Merchandise.
And then David says he thinks LA Knight staying on SmackDown is a good thing because he hopes that he will feud with Theory for the US title, which was my automatic thought too, because we know that they're not taking the titles off of Roman. Which I saw an interesting thing about Roman today. I had to screenshot it. It was an article that was posted on Fightful. And they were talking about at one point last year, there were internal documents that indicated a plan to split the titles off of Roman. And that it was going to be with Rollins or McIntyre facing Cody to crown a new WWE champion. So exactly what we've been saying. They just don't want to take the Universal title off him, which makes sense. But that didn't happen. And within a few weeks, the plans were dropped. So they're not sure why or how they were planning on it, but I guess that it was the internal documents just said TBA. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting because I was like, well, at least they had some thoughts on it because but it's just like it's annoying to hear at the same time because I'm like, yeah, we know that you had several opportunities to split them, but don't get me started. Yeah, just don't get me started on that. Okay. But speaking of that, let's get into the bloodline. So more twists and turns have come from the bloodline. I know I said I wouldn't get too into it, and I won't, but I do have to say that it's very frustrating to see every single week that basically Paul Heyman is the one that is feuding with the Usos.
I want to ask a question about Paul Heyman.
All right.
So when he came out after Triple H made his first round announcements, you see how he brought him over to the heavyweight title? Did you see Paul?
It was all calculated. Yeah. It's very nice. It's very nice. Congratulations. That's what he said.
This is why we get this out there to the peeps. You have to watch
everything.
There is no cool. Accidental planned thing that goes on television. Live events are different. I mean, if you see something like that, it is not an accident.
Yeah, not with Triple H. I mean, let's not forget about when they were hyping Bray and all of that stuff that was going on in the background and whatever. Yeah. So my biggest thing, obviously, he just goes in the ring and does his thing, just hyping up Roman and putting down the Usos, and then calls out Seth Rollins, which I thought was interesting. But it feels like they're just not going to address when Roman is going to come back. And it's really, really, really feeling like they have no plans for him to be around for Night of Champions. That's like how that's how it's feeling to me, honestly. I'm not saying that it's not happening. I'm just
No,
saying,
but did you see a report today that Vince has been pushing for Roman to be on Night of Champions or something, and they're just not having it. So we may not even get on his
which
1000th day.
blows my fucking mind, dude. Like, it just I don't want to even I don't want to go into this every single week.
We don't
But
have
it's
to.
just like,
but-
it's frustrating though. Like, it's so frustrating because then it's like you're trying to incorporate him into the storyline by having Paul talk to him on his phone. Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing?
You're gonna call
And
it
why?
fucking ringside.
He's now been gone for a month. It is May 2nd. He was here last time was April 3rd, which basically he just sat there and then left because the main event didn't happen. So he's been off for a month. And I'm just like, how much more time do you need? How much more time? And why? And how do you feel comfortable doing it? To me, I would feel like, I don't know. I'm not a wrestler. I don't do the schedule that they have or the physical work. Obviously, I'm not trying to claim that, but like, I feel like it would make me feel so uncomfortable if I was literally the face of the company, holding the highest titles of the company, and I'm gone for 2 months or more, just sitting at home. And who knows if he's even watching the product when he's at home, but like, I would feel so uncomfortable knowing that I'm just chilling, doing absolutely nothing, and like holding these championships hostage just because I can. Like what's going through his mind?
I don't know. I'm on the other side of the fence where I'm so enamored with the whole bloodline story. I just don't even care about Roman Reigns anymore. I just don't.
But
My
that's
attention is
bad.
on Solo.
But that's
It's
bad.
on. You
That's
think it's bad? I think it's a good thing.
no, it's from a business standpoint, it's bad. You're not supposed They want you to care about the champion, the fact that he's coming up on 1,000 days, the fact that he's this, that he's so dominant, he's this, he's this, he's that. They want you to care about that because they want him to be a legend. They want him to be this like iconic longest whatever champion of the modern era. Like, we're supposed to like grovel at his feet, like, like this is how we're supposed to feel. But the fact that there are people who don't even care that he's not on every week, that they don't care that he's getting close to 1,000 days, that they're more invested in other things, from a business perspective, I don't think that's good. It's good for your mentality because you're not sitting there struggling the same way that I am, where I'm like, fuck Roman, like every Monday and Friday. But I feel like, as far as like him and what they're trying to do with him, it's not good, because then when he comes back, who's going to care if people are going to get into that mindset? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah, so we'll have to see. There's still like what, little less than 4 weeks until Night of Champions, so there is time. I think I promise that I will literally have the biggest rant after Night of Champions if he is not there. My head will explode and I will have to watch my mouth because I would probably drop a lot of F-bombs because I'm going to be so mad.
Let it go, girl. Let the
Um,
Bostonian fucking fly. Just fucking.
I know. I just have to roll it back because, yeah.
Boston 316 says we just choked away a playoff game. All right, now you say something.
Okay, so then we had the more twists and turns. So we already saw Paul basically call out the Usos. And so then we see this awkward moment backstage where Jay is trying to have a conversation with Solo, and Paul is just like, nope, he can't talk to you. Blah, 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 blah. So it seemed to me there was a clear indication there that Jay is sensing that something is up and that there is a clear divide between him with Jimmy, and then between them and Solo, Paul, and Roman, even though Roman's not there. So I liked this aspect of it, which again is playing into what we've predicted. I don't remember if it was you or if it was just me, but the whole Roman, the bloodline versus the Usos is looking like it's going to happen. And do you think that this is going to be a thing that Jay can finally somehow eventually get Jimmy to side with him and finally see Roman for who he is? Do you think that's what we're heading to?
We're heading towards a moment where they face each other at a pay-per-view. Maybe SummerSlam, honestly. At this point, do you think he's defending at SummerSlam? No, you're going to defend the new title you just as your main event.
I'm not against them. I wouldn't be surprised if they do it at SummerSlam. That was the original thing. Remember, he wasn't advertised for anything between Mania until SummerSlam. So I feel like you can't have him off of that show.
And if you have them feud and Solo is just beating up his older brothers, and then to they would have, first off, I'm not going to get into the match element. They would put on a fantastic match that their entire lineage would be proud of. It would be after the match that your eyes better be on that goddamn television, because what's going to happen, and I'm predicting this, that's why I'm the goddamn champion and one who actually works, is that you're going to have Roman Reigns hand Solo Sikoa a chair, and he's going to have to do what the others couldn't. And that is going to be, I'm not going to predict what's going to happen there because that's up to creative. But if that callback is made, we are in the midst of the greatest wrestling story, I think, maybe in history.
That's huge. That would be like crazy callback.
That's what, imagine the callback at SummerSlam. This is that is goosebumps worthy type shit.
Yeah, that would be good. I would be for that. So before moving on, I want to get to these comments. Jared says Damian Priest promos are really accentuating his deep voice. Don't even get me started on Damian Priest, okay? Don't, because I was just a little excited about him speaking so much Spanish last night, okay? Pitts, why isn't Rick Boogs being given a significant push?
Too early. He needs to go on a show. He needs to be established as Rick Boogs, get away from Elias, and kind of do his own thing. He's got it. The dude has got it to be a nice little lower mid card that gets thrown into a multi-man match and shocks everybody with how good he is. He's a good filler guy right now, and then he also great bedfellow. Great bedfellow for anybody who can just team up with this guy. Maybe, Staffy Ali or another type of guy like that needs a push. Dolph Ziggler maybe could, be a manager in a sense, and they become a there's so many avenues you can go down with him because he's so fresh right now that he doesn't have any direction. So if I'm Rick Boogs or a fan of Rick Boogs, I'm not worried yet. Just pay attention, just let it play out.
Richard says, what do you think should main event Backlash? Bad Bunny versus Damian Priest or Cody versus Brock? Normally, I would say Cody versus Brock, just because of the implications of the match. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's Bad Bunny versus Damian Priest simply because they're in Puerto Rico. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the main event.
Plus, you don't think the Bloodline versus Riddle and KO?
No, because it's not for anything. They're not for titles. It's just this is the end of our feud because you guys go to SmackDown or we go to Raw. I don't think so. Yeah, and they just main evented Mania. We don't. I mean,
yeah, let's not get greedy, tag champs.
Well, but also are people that invested in this at this point?
I am so invested. No, I just mean LWO story.
Yeah, I was gonna say Bad Bunny and Damian Priest because it's a street fight. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the last part. Hypes it up because of where they are and who's in the match. Cody versus Brock. I don't know. I have an argument for both, so I don't know which would be better.
You gotta have the LWO versus Judgment Day. I want to talk about if that's our next topic. Do we have any more
Well,
questions?
not yet. I'm still getting to more comments.
Okay, so I'll leave that for when we talk about
Okay.
that because I don't want to ramble about that. I want to get to these.
He also says, would JD and McDonough join the Judgment Day and replace Rhea Ripley as if she's given a solo push? I mean, I wouldn't be
You're
mad
half
at it.
there. You're
Yeah.
half there with him joining. Um, there's a stigma because we've been wrestling fans for so long that you need someone to leave, or once they get too big of their group, they outgrow it. Triple H did it with DX, but it's different nowadays. Very different. You can be in that same faction. People want to see you actually in that same faction for years to come. I don't see Rhea leaving, but I love how you think, Jared, because JD McDonough in Judgment Day would be incredible. That man, he is one of my favorite, sleeper favorites
Did you
in WWE right now.
see the clip of when he got called up?
No, I didn't.
He starts crying. Oh my god, it tore at my heart because I really love when they have that camera for the NXT call up specifically, and I am assuming that a lot of the people in NXT, if not all of them, were not aware that they were being called up, which I think is more exciting
Way
because
more exciting.
you get those natural reactions. But yeah, no, so he was called up and he just immediately covers his face and starts crying, and like a bunch of people just came over and started hugging him. One of the I don't remember, I think it was Alba, looked like she was she might be dating him. I don't know, or they're just like close. I don't know, but she seemed very like hands-on with him, So I don't know. I just thought it was really sweet because it's just like when you watch the NFL draft. I love when they cry. I love when it's like you see their dream come true.
I see their emotion.
Yeah.
Screw
Like it
fuck a
like it means
storyline.
something. It means
It
something.
means so much to him because if you watch him throughout like NXT UK, his time in NXT, he was always in the title picture, but just never champion.
Yeah.
Which in wrestling, it's okay to lose those big moments. That kind of means the same if you win or lose. It's weird dichotomy. So to see him get that moment where his talent's finally recognized,
Yeah.
he's so good. He's such a good heel. You gotta feel for the guy. I love it. I'm also trying to
and
start dating.
Judgment Day have said that they wanted to add more. I mean, Finn has specifically said it, and I think that they're equipped to do it. So I think that would be pretty cool because I love big groups also. Richard says, will Roman fight at Night of Champions or just have a ceremony? If he's even there, I feel like he has to have a match, but it's not looking like that. And I also think it would be corny as hell for him to have a ceremony when you've not even fucking been there. Like, what are we celebrating? That you've had nearly 2 months off and haven't done anything? No. He also says, do you think the report is true about Roman Cody will headline Mania 40? It should be this year's SummerSlam. I agree. I think it should be SummerSlam. The problem is they're on opposite shows, and so he follows it up saying does he win Money in the Bank? It's the only way that would happen, and I would be here for it. I'm not mad if it waited until Mania, but then they're just gonna have to figure something out. I mean, I guess if Cody were to win at Money in the Bank, then he would have to hold on to it until, I mean, that would have to be a thing where like he can't like cash it in at Mania and just be like, okay, we're having a match. You know what I mean? It would have to be that like Roman was scheduled to have a different match and then he gets cashed in on again because like I
Roman got to cash on twice at Mania.
I would love it. I would fucking love it, dude. I would love that because he's not going to be like, okay, my cash in, I want to match with you at WrestleMania. You know what I mean? Like I don't like that either because the whole point of having the Money in the Bank is to be like shocking to when you cash in. You know what I mean? So I would hate for it to be a planned thing. It's just too complicated right now for me to figure this out because they just need to take the title. They need to take a title off him, and they just need to take the titles off of him, and then just get rid of the Universal. But that's a conversation for another day. Micah says, keep up the good work, Queen Sara. Thank you. And he says Balor needs to be champion first. I like Seth first. But let's keep going.
What about Richard? Did we ask this one?
Oh, if OC challenges Roman, will Tamina join Bloodline? I don't know. What are you laughing at?
That would be hilarious if Tamina joined Bloodline. I know
Why?
she's like technically, I know that.
So is
But
Dakota Kai, you know.
Oh,
Did you know
I
Dakota?
know that. My
Oh,
girl, of
okay.
course she's Samoan. Did you see how good she is in the ring?
Okay.
That's that family lineage. But no, I only find that hilarious because like when was the last time you heard of Tamina on television?
I know, but I feel bad.
I think
Anyway, can you get rid of the comment, please?
I can.
Thank you. So quickly we can talk about Damage Control is clearly not breaking up since we were just talking about Dakota. They got drafted to SmackDown together. It looks like they might be trying to push Io as a solo talent since they had Bailey and Dakota tag teaming on Raw, and Io wasn't even around. We didn't even see her until a segment with Bianca later. So that I think is interesting.
And they won.
I know, which I was happy about. Like my sister doesn't even watch like every single week, but she knows that Damage Control has not been winning, and she even mentioned that to me. She was like, "Oh wow, they won! Like finally." So it's gonna be interesting. Maybe they'll be treated better now, or booked better.
Someone put a video up on Twitter of imagine this is Damage Control at the end of Backlash, and it's the video of Evolution after Randy Orton won.
Mm-hmm.
And Batista's got him up on the shoulders, and Triple H like that, like
Yeah.
you did, and then just like, and they were like, imagine if that happens to Damage Control. I lost it, although I don't think it'll happen.
Yeah.
I think they want to keep them together. That was Bailey's, that was her own project that she really worked hard to get going. And there's just, I think we both said it, like we want to see more out of them.
Yeah, I do. I just want it to be planned better, basically. And since we're talking about Backlash, I feel like the Backlash hype around almost every single match has not been that great, if we're being honest. And that's not me being biased. I'm just saying in general, I feel like the whole Lesnar and Cody lead up has been kind of flat. Brock was gone for 2 weeks, so Cody's just like talking to the camera as if like he's talking to Brock, so that's kind of flat. Last night I think was kind of lame because again, we just have Brock come out.
I lost it. I was laughing my ass off.
But it's just like how many times do we need to see security guards that are very clearly not security guards trying to hold back these people, and then they try to get to each other, and then it's just like, okay, the end. Like I'm not more excited about this match because now we've seen that twice. I also wonder, does Lesnar have it in his contract that he only wrestles at pay-per-views? He doesn't wrestle on regular shows. Like,
yeah, I mean, have you heard Triple H talk about this contract negotiation? It's like upwards of Jalen Hurts status.
Well, I just mean, like, I'm talking about when he wrestles, though. I'm not talking
No,
about
I agree.
money.
I'm totally with you.
It seems like that's the case, too, because I feel like they could have easily had him in a match or, whatever, and that's just not happening. I also think that Bianca versus Io has been kind of meh. Like, there's been some moments where it's like, okay, like, I'm excited because Io's great, and her match with Bianca is going to be amazing, but I just feel like hers, and the same thing with Rhea and Selena, because that was such a random paired match where they basically wanted Selena to be on the show, especially because of where it is and who she is, and Rhea needs to defend the championship because she has not done that yet. I just wish that they would have given more time and proper thought to these matches in the build up, because I feel like they just could have done a whole lot more and not just these random backstage segments to be like, okay, or like the same segment with Cody and Lesnar 3 times.
Yeah.
Like, I just think that they could have done a lot more. So that was just a little bit disappointing. And then so since you wanted to talk about it, we wanted to make sure to mention that nobody is a bigger heel right now than Dominic, because that crowd last night would not let him get a word out. And I was trying to think of the last time that I could remember where a heel could barely talk on the mic and like over the booze. And my immediate thought was, well, not my immediate, my first thought was, I think it was Vicky Guerrero, ironically. I remember peak Vicky when she would come out and say, excuse me, and then try to talk. There were moments where you couldn't hear a word she was saying, and she was on a microphone.
Deafening. Yeah.
So I feel like that
Good one.
he's at that status right now, which is crazy because Vicky was coming out like every single week, had already had like multiple on-screen relationships. Like she would like shit on the crowd every single week. She had the trademark excuse me. So like she earned the booze, you know what I mean? Like it had come a long time, and for Dominic it's basically just like fighting with his dad has kind of just like established this hatred. And so what I was enjoying the most is one, that he was playing along with it and like interacting with the crowd. I liked that because other times he's just like not acknowledged it, and I think it's a mistake to not acknowledge it. And two, I love the rest of the Judgment Day's reactions. Like Finn is just sitting there like grinning because he just loves every single second of it. And I love Rhea just being like, let him talk, you know, like
Yeah.
I
It's
love
so
all of it.
funny.
It's so good.
My favorite part of it is just the fact that of all people, it's Dominic Mysterio that is getting this absolute nuclear heat. And he says the same thing. Like, he's so good at what he is, just this punk brat who joined the dark side to piss off mommy and daddy.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, it's one thing if you have nuclear heat and you suck and they people just like want you to leave. This man is nuclear heat and puts on incredible matches. So, like, if I'm him, it is the weirdest way to say you're doing amazing
Yeah.
in any sort of business. Oh, I love
Yeah,
it.
because other people, you know, it's funny. It's one of those things where it's like if you got booed in any other type of atmosphere, like that's not good. You know, you don't want to be booed and people would be upset. And it's like, no, that's like iconic that it was that loud. Before he even
There.
said anything. It was just they gave him the mic and it already started.
Booed.
Like that's insane.
I'm trying to think of comparisons, not only in sports, but like real life, where people wherever like they're just gonna get booed, what like that status, and there's just, like as an athlete, a professional sports athlete, don't mind it. I don't know. I just like it's so unbelievable that it does not matter where this man goes, he's booed out of the stadium, and it's a win. Like he won the night.
Yeah.
And all he did was just grab a microphone. Didn't even talking to it. He just grabbed it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god, it's insane. I love it.
So Richard says the security guard spot wasn't needed. I wish it was a good back and forth promo.
I
Me
wanted to
too.
hear Brock talk.
You wanted what?
I wanted to hear Brock talk. Like let
Oh
him just
yeah.
go in, talk about how it's like it's pathetic that you have been using your or riding your family's coattails or whatever. I
Well,
did it on my own, and like you could do so much with it.
he also never explained why he even attacked Cody. Like he never gave any sort of like back. I don't know. There was just no explanation.
Like,
It
I'm
was
gonna
all
kick
just like,
your ass. Why?
oh, we think it was because he was mad that he went on first at Mania. Like, why are you letting them dictate? You know, like it would have been cool to just hear why he did it, because he also could have just been like, I had no reason other than I felt like it. You know what I mean? Like that would have been kick ass. Like, yeah, dude, just say that. Just be like, yeah, I just felt like it. Like, I don't care. You know, I would have I would have been into that, but they just don't let him talk.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, Jared also says, to be honest, I don't think they have any significant plans for Bailey, but Io might be given a push. As for Dakota, she might get lost in the shuffle, possibly, but she's been doing really great in matches. So I think that, I mean, they're highlighting her. I mean, she was like trending on Twitter last night because of the chiropractor. So
The chiropractor might be my new favorite move.
yeah, so I think that we might be surprised with how they handle Dakota.
It incorporates my favorite move of all time.
I know. So he also asked, do you think Tony Khan has plans for Taya
Love
as
when
the AEW audience have not embraced her?
Yeah, I love when I get non-WWE questions. So now it's getting to use. I think that there's plans for her because they put her against Jade Cargill right away. Jade Cargill needed to face somebody and honestly beat somebody like a Ty Valkyrie who has that experience in other promotions. And I could be mistaken. Was she in WWE for a little bit?
She was, yes. She
Like,
was something Monroe, wasn't she? Yeah, I don't remember. It was in NXT, very short.
so,
It was unfortunate.
but she hasn't faced anyone like that, and you need to build up Jade Cargill as your first like homegrown women's talent, because even Britt Baker played, was in the Performance Center for a little bit, and she's been great. But like, she's a wrestler. Jade Cargill is more like a dominant brute force of the women's division, where no one messes with her. Because look at her, Frankie Monet was
Frankie Monet. Okay, I knew it was
Monet.
something like Monet Monroe something. I was like something like that.
But yeah, I really like this, and right now it's just going to be Ty Valkyrie is going to be a face that you may see her on Rampage a lot, fighting women. You may see her once in a blue moon on Dark to put over some, to get some action with the younger people, indie people. So I am not worried about it right now. Tony Khan is as much shit as people give him. The man he knows what he's doing. He's put on a show in London this year. I mean, that's crazy for EW. So, yeah, next one.
Richard makes a good point. Says he doesn't think WWE wants to progress anything on Raw due to the draft changes. I think, I think that's kind of why some things were just kind of awkward, which I'm fine about.
Yeah.
Who should win on Friday, Shinsuke or Cross?
Cross.
Cross needs to win, especially because Shinsuke's leaving and already apparently is gonna have a feud with Miz, which I'm fine with. Miz is such a team guy, dude. I can't, like, I know we compliment him all the time, but like,
He really is awesome.
He's just great. Jared says, with Indus Sheer returning to the main roster, will they fit better on Raw or SmackDown? I believe they were drafted to Raw. So that's, I mean, I guess that's what they'll have to be with. I mean, there's other teams on there: Alpha Academy, Roman and Ricochet, Imperium, Viking Raiders, The New Day, Maximum Male Models. Like, they have a lot of tag teams that they can deal with. They just have to build them better than before, because we've already seen Jinder and we've already seen Veer, and no one gave up about any of them. So they have to try and figure out a way to get people to care about them in some sort of way. Otherwise, this is another call up that no one cares about.
Yep.
Richard says, do you think the tag champs, women and men, will be united and travel both shows? I think they need to go to both shows.
Both shows. We're at an era where the champion needs to be doing double duty, and
unless they split them.
Unless they split them, that's different.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're gonna do one champion, you're the undisputed, or whatever name you want to throw on the belt, you need to be doing double duty in this era, because that's how, in a weird way, you get more talent on shows.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not having one of those guys. Like, for instance, like KO and Sammy, they're not SmackDown or Raw guys. They're just WWE guys. And once you get to that status, it doesn't matter what show you go on. People are going to cheer you. They're going to pay money for your shirt, for their ticket to go, and they just want to see you incorporated at any portion of it. Whereas people, like a Pretty Deadly, for instance, or I can't think about something, but just someone like that where they're not ready yet. They just need to stay in one show, build their own brand, and then move on.
Jarrett asks, there was no mention of Alexa Bliss or Bray Wyatt. Yes. So technically they were just unassigned. That's like even what Fightful was calling them. They're among that list. Alexa is allegedly coming back to TV soon, or at least that's a rumor right now.
I read that report.
Bray Wyatt is considered just like out, injured, sidelined, something. A bunch of people were not drafted, like Aaliyah, Big E, Bobby Roode, Carmella. Carmella's pregnant.
Yeah, shout out, congrats. I'm so happy.
R-Truth, Randy Orton, Ciampa, like all of these people. Logan Paul wasn't drafted either, which I'm fine with. Fuck Logan Paul.
You know what he's gonna do? He's gonna do an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, I know. I know. I don't even want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it.
But no, I read a report that Bray Wyatt actually was assigned a new writer.
Yes, I did hear about that. My sister told me, actually.
They're going to be incorporating Alexa Bliss into that. Makes sense.
We need it. That's the last that we saw of her anyway.
Yes, like you teased it already.
Yeah. He also asked, "Are you happy with the Trinity Fatu debut at Impact?" I haven't seen it.
Is that what we're
Honestly.
calling her on Impact? Like that's her name?
That's her real
Uh,
name. That's
I know
her
it's her
real
real
name.
name, but is that what she's going by in
Yes.
Impact? Okay.
Yeah, she can't
So
go by Naomi. She doesn't own it.
oh,
So
that's okay. So what
she's one of the lucky ones that they don't own her real name.
that's huge.
Because other like I mean that was like why like Cody Rhodes, I know that's not his real name, but he couldn't use Rhodes in AEW for years because he had to fight to get the rights back to Rhodes. But imagine
I
being Randy
love
Orton or
it.
John Cena.
Oh my
You
god,
know?
that's why they're WWE guys. The debut of her in Impact, I read this. I don't know if I agree with it yet because I'm not as into Impact as I was when I was in 5th grade. But they are saying that she has the chance of being like the Kurt Angle of the women's division in Impact, where she just hit that stride and just hit another level. I mean, Kurt Angle in Impact is maybe TNA in general.
Are we just talking about regular or Pert Kurt? Because
Yeah, I was saying Impact Kurt. You can say Perk Kurt. It was just another animal that I think he was just on another level for other reasons. But it enhances wrestling, and I mean the promos and shit. TNA was a wild, wild west in the
I think
Kickstarter era.
I mean I'm happy for her that she's back in wrestling. I'm bummed honestly that it's not in WWE if I'm being honest. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how it goes for her because it's been almost a year since she's wrestled because she's not done anything, like Mercedes has been doing stuff since basically like January or so. So it's going to be interesting to see what she ends up doing. Richard says, does Bobby win the title at Backlash? Bronson will be at Raw, so I doubt he wins. I think Theory needs to win, especially against big meaty men. He needs to beat them. I mean, if they're trying to make Theory like a big guy and they're going to try to make the United States Championship a big deal on SmackDown, the way that they did it with the Intercontinental Championship, that they have to have Theory win. It's just what it is. Jared says, why hasn't Dana Brooke been sent back to help to get developed in NXT? I don't know. I think there's something else going on with her. Like I read something about like she was like thanking fans for being supportive and stuff. So I don't know if something's like going on with her personally, medically, physically. I don't know. But I don't think that's a bad idea. It's revitalized so many people's careers. Like look at Apollo Crews. Like I mean there's plenty of others. I'm just saying like,
Dolph Ziggler for a little bit.
Yeah.
Weird
well,
time.
He didn't need it, but
He didn't need it. I listened to a Van Fleet podcast with Ziggler about it. Really interesting.
Yeah. And then the last comment, Richard says, what are your thoughts on the free agent title? A lot of people aren't happy with that and see it as a cop-out. Yeah, I think it's kind of weird, if we're being honest. I think it makes sense for people like Brock, right? Like if we're just gonna be like, okay, yeah, like Brock has the mind of his own. He's an animal. He's a beast. You can't tame him. Like whatever, I guess. But like, I think that with some of the other people, I think that it's just kind of random because it's like Elias is one of them, and I'm like, who the fuck care? I mean, I love Elias. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh yeah, he should be a free agent and go wherever he wants. Like, put him to SmackDown with Boogs or something because like he's not a talent that's like, oh yeah, he should definitely be, going to whatever show he wants. I think some of them they just were like, we don't know what to do with you, so you're a free agent. Because like I think Ziggler is one, and it's like why? But why?
Well, like Corbin, I kind of love that he's a free agent because now you can just play in the sad Corbin that no show wants you.
Yeah,
and then that's how you get over because no one wants you.
Did you see that video from France? Did you see that video of him?
No.
Okay, so they were in Europe over the weekend, and first of all, Paris is crazy.
Yeah,
like they were saying that they need to go and do shows there more because they did. I think it was there. They had the 10 minutes nonstop singing Seth Rollins' song, 10 minutes straight with no break. And this is Seth, like he's supposed to be in a match with The Miz. I think it was The Miz. And it's like they were singing it for 10 minutes. They were cheering and singing for Austin Theory. They kept singing A-Town Down. And then they were also chanting for Baron Corbin, before like the show, and then
Fucking
they were
way.
chanting for him so much during his match. He won, first of all, which was huge because he got
Wait, got over at a live event.
yeah, so he won the match, and like I guess that he gets like a little emotional because people they were cheering for him the entire time. So I think that they need to do something because I'm not like a fan of Baron Corbin, but
No, but
obviously
everyone
he's
needs.
entertaining when he was sad Corbin, and he has those one-liners, they're like, "Oh, thanks guys," like, "Oh, I just having a bad day," like that stuff is hilarious. So,
People forget he can work in the ring with pretty much anybody. I mean,
yeah.
Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin have like historic rivalries and feuds.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Baron Corbin was feuding with Roman at some point during this Universal title run.
Yeah, so we'll see. I think yeah, they need to take advantage of it. I mean, obviously a Paris audience is not the same as a US audience, but I think that they have an opportunity right now to make him into something funny, good, entertaining. Um and they just have to cultivate that and get it going. So that was Raw.
That was the draft. That was Raw. We have our rosters. We have SmackDown on Friday night. And yeah, because we have Backlash, probably no SmackDown breakdown this week, sadly. We
Yeah.
might do a little recap on Sunday, kind of do both. Call it the Puerto Rico breakdown or something. But,
What time is the show?
standard
Also,
time, I checked the time difference. There's no time difference. Oh, there's no time difference from me to here, so probably 3 hours for you.
no, I know, but like what time? Like
I'll
8
look that
p.m.
up.
for you?
I hope so, because I know Night of Champions is going to be like a weird one.
I know. I think it's on at like noon for me or 10
Is it?
a.m. or
Oh,
something. But
oh no, I don't want the meaning of Backlash.
meaning of backlash. What does that mean?
You can't give me a time. What time? 8 p.m. Sweet.
All right, so 5. All right, that's good.
So yeah, we'll do a little breakdown after that. It seems fit, and I think Sawyer will be joining me because that man, Sarah, I've converted a wrestling fan. It's so fun.
We love it.
Especially when he's saying that he loves these guys or is like, what's up with this guy? And I'm like, oh, you
I'm
know
gonna be like,
nothing.
you need to love LA Knight and you need to love Pretty Deadly. Thank you.
That's really about it. Cody Rhodes, he was enamored with the Seth Rollins woe chant. It was like, this is the most unbelievable experience. I'm like, yeah, welcome to fucking wrestling, man. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you guys for tuning into this incredibly long Raw Rewind, but that's what happens when it's draft season, it's Backlash season,
And we've
WrestleMania
gone for a
Backlash
week.
season. And I was gone for a week. I was living it up with the fam down in South Carolina with my South Carolina fam, technically fam now. Love it. It's actually the groom's birthday. So shout out to Preston. Happy birthday, buddy. To go on your wedding or honeymoon on your birthday. Pretty cool. That's definitely one you'll remember. So happy birthday to you and thank you for the weekend. And thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you're following us on all social media platforms at Pat_Pitts on Twitter and at Pitsy35 on Instagram. For Sarah, follow her on Twitter at SMarshXO and on Instagram at SMarsh_. That's not the only place you can find Sarah. Her YouTube channel, which I think that's where we get most of our views, but maybe there's one or two peeps that tune in on the Twitter. Go check out Sarah's YouTube channel at Sarah Marshall XO. And, if you don't have an hour and 18 minutes and 44 seconds to tune in and listen to everything we had to say, and you only want to hear one or two or three things from the previous Raw, we have clips all cut up for you by Sarah herself. And, we have them up there. Go check them out in the archives. Help us get paid. All right. WrestleMania 40 is coming up. We're trying to go. All right. Like, it's going to be a really big moment for Philly to grace our presence. It'd be nice. So help us get there by watching us and subscribing to the podcast, Pits and Sarah's Wrestling Podcast, which it's
TikTok.
something interesting, Sarah. I took our conversation from the Raw Rewind about the championship, the new unveiling, and I put that as an episode. So it's not, based like one of these recaps, you can go back
Yeah.
and listen to it whenever and hear our thoughts about the new championship and our last show on podcasts, anywhere you find it, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, all of those. And I think that's it for now. So that being said, thank you for tuning in. God bless. Remember that you can do it. All you got to do is try it. We will see you next episode.